Have you ever thought of this? You're at a casual get-together, nothing fancy, music's low, people talking in clusters, and across the room you catch her looking at you. Not a quick glance, a real one, the kind that lingers just half a second too long. But the moment your eyes meet, she looks away, fast. She suddenly laughs at something her friend says, turns her body slightly, starts talking like she's deeply invested in a story she definitely wasn't listening to 5 seconds ago, and your stomach drops. Okay, you think. She's not interested. So you pull back, you don't approach, you don't engage. You decide to protect your pride and keep it moving. But here's the part most men never realize. What if that look away wasn't disinterest at all? What if it was the exact opposite? That moment, right there, is where so many connections quietly die before they ever start. Not because there was no attraction, but because there was too much. And I get why it's confusing. Mixed signals are exhausting. They make you second-guess yourself. They make you wonder if you're imagining things. And after a while, they make you want to stop trying altogether just to avoid feeling foolish. I've watched this happen more times than I can count. Smart men, observant men, men who actually do pick up on energy, but misinterpret it because no one ever taught them how women often behave when emotions feel risky. So today, we're flipping the script. We're not decoding what women say. We're decoding what women do, especially when they're trying very hard not to reveal how deeply they feel. Because here's the truth, most people won't tell you. When a woman is afraid of falling for you, her behavior doesn't get cold. It gets careful. By the end of this video, you'll be able to spot the difference instantly. You'll know when to lean in, when to slow down, and when to simply hold your ground with calm confidence. We're going to break down why she then looks away, how she keeps conversations alive without chasing, why she suddenly seems to just be around the subtle physical cues most men miss, and how her friends often reveal what she's scared to admit. Once you see these signs clearly, you stop guessing. And when you stop guessing, you lead. Now let's start with the first clue most men misread. 1. Why she then looks away. Have you ever noticed this? She looks at you when she thinks you're not paying attention, but the moment you look back, she breaks eye contact, and your instinct says, okay, she's avoiding me. But pause for a second. Let me tell you a quick story. I once watched a woman at a friend's birthday dinner do this exact thing all night. Every time the guy across the table laughed, her eyes went to him automatically. But the second he noticed, she'd look down, pick up her phone, adjust her sleeve, anything to redirect. Later, when someone asked her if she liked him, she froze. Her exact words were, "Please don't say that, I'm trying not to." That's the part men don't see. The glance and dart isn't avoidance, it's emotional self-control. When a woman feels drawn to you, especially if the feeling surprises her, eye contact becomes intense. Eye contact feels revealing. It feels like giving something away before she's ready. So she looks and then she pulls back. Not because she doesn't want you to notice, but because she does. Here's the behavioral insight you need to lock in. Avoidant eye contact paired with repeated glances usually signals attraction mixed with restraint. Disinterest looks different. Disinterest is neutral, flat, unaware. This is awareness plus regulation. So what should you do? This is where most men blow it. They either stare harder to assert confidence or retreat completely and disengage. Both miss the mark. The confident response is calm acknowledgement without pressure. When your eyes meet, don't lock in. Don't look away instantly either. Hold for a beat, soft smile, then continue what you were doing. That tells her, I see you, I'm comfortable, I'm not rushing you. That sense of emotional safety is what allows attraction to grow instead of shut down. Here's your mindset shift. Your job isn't to force clarity, it's to create ease. When she feels safe, the distance shortens on its own. And this leads us to the next question you need to ask yourself. If she's not ready to be obvious, why does she keep finding ways to keep the conversation alive? That's where section 2 begins. 2. How she secretly keeps your chat alive. Have you noticed this pattern? The conversation ends, but somehow it doesn't really end. You stop talking, and a few minutes later, she asks a small question. Not a deep one, not a bold one, just enough to reopen the door. Or she replies to your message with something that doesn't need a response, but invites one. That's not accidental. Here's a simple, real-life scenario. You're talking after work or at a social setting. The exchange naturally slows down. You assume that's your cue to disengage. But then she says, "By the way, did you ever finish that project you mentioned?" Or later that night she sends, "Random thought, but that story you told earlier was actually funny." On the surface, it feels casual, almost throwaway. But behaviorally, it's very intentional. When a woman is afraid of falling too fast, she often avoids initiating in obvious ways. Direct pursuit feels risky, vulnerable, too revealing. So instead, she keeps the energy alive without chasing. That's the conversation bounce. She's not pulling you closer. She's preventing the connection from dying. Here's the key insight. If she keeps reopening conversations after natural stopping points, she's emotionally invested, but pacing herself. Disinterest lets conversations fade. Fear of attachment keeps them hovering. Now let's talk about how you should respond, because this is where men accidentally flip the dynamic. The mistake? Over-rewarding. Men often jump into long explanations, instant replies, or emotional intensity the moment they sense interest. They think, "This is my chance." But from her side, that can feel like pressure. The grounded response is simple and confident. Match her energy, don't exceed it. Answer warmly, but leave space. Let the conversation breathe instead of flooding it. If she asks a light question, give a thoughtful but concise answer, and then gently pass the ball back. This shows emotional steadiness. And steadiness is what makes her feel safe enough to lean in further. Here's the mindset that changes everything. You don't need to escalate the connection, you need to sustain it. When a woman feels that you're comfortable with silence and connection, her guard lowers naturally. So ask yourself this as we move forward. If she's not ready to chase, and she's not ready to confess, why does she keep finding reasons to be near you? That's not coincidence. That's section 3. 3. Why she finds ways to be near you. Let's talk about something subtle but incredibly telling. Have you noticed how she just ends up close to you? Not dramatically, not obviously. She sits near you instead of across the room. She stands beside you in group settings. She somehow ends up walking the same direction as you when everyone leaves, and she does it without announcing anything. That's the proximity game. Here's a familiar scenario. You're in a group. Friends, co-workers, classmates, doesn't matter. You're not even talking directly, but when you move, she adjusts. When you step away, she drifts closer again a few minutes later. It's quiet, almost unconscious. That's not randomness. When a woman is drawn to you but cautious about her emotions, her body does something before her words ever will. It seeks familiarity and safety. Physical proximity without pressure is her way of staying connected while still protecting herself emotionally. Here's the insight most men miss. If she consistently chooses physical closeness without creating reasons to leave, she's emotionally comfortable with you and testing whether that comfort is mutual. Now here comes the calm wake-up call. This is where many men unknowingly ruin things. They mistake proximity for permission. They suddenly lean too much, invade her space, turn playful closeness into forced intimacy. Or they call attention to it. "Why are you always next to me?" That instantly breaks the safety she was building. Attraction doesn't grow from pressure, it grows from allowance. So what's the right response? You mirror without trapping. If she sits close, you stay relaxed. If she stands near you, don't stiffen or pounce. Let your body language say, "I'm comfortable here." Then, and this is important, you give her room to choose again. Sometimes you step away first, not to test her, not to play games, but to see what she does next. If she reestablishes closeness later, that's your confirmation. Here's the mindset shift that keeps you grounded. Let proximity be her decision more than once. One moment could be chance. Repeated choice is clarity, and when a woman feels that you respect space and connection, her trust deepens fast. Now think about this. If she feels comfortable being near you and safe talking to you, what happens when that comfort starts crossing into physical expression, just barely? That's where most men miss the loudest signal of all, and that's exactly what we're stepping into in section 4. 4. The subtle physical cue that isn't accidental. Let's slow this one down because it's quiet, but powerful. Have you ever felt her brush past you when there was clearly enough space? A light tap on your arm when she laughs, her hand briefly resting on your shoulder before pulling away, and you wonder, was that on purpose? Or am I reading too much into it? Here's a grounded, real-life moment. You're standing side by side. She's telling a story. She laughs, reaches out, touches your arm for half a second, and then immediately withdraws, continuing the conversation like nothing happened. That wasn't random. When a woman is afraid of falling too deeply, she doesn't avoid touch, she limits it. Touch is emotionally exposing. It creates connection fast. So instead of sustained contact, she allows small, fleeting moments, just enough to feel closeness, not enough to feel out of control. Here's the behavioral insight to remember. Brief, light, repeatable touch is often a sign of attraction paired with restraint. Disinterest avoids touch entirely. Comfort without attraction is neutral, but intentional, momentary touch followed by a pullback? That's regulation. Now, this is where your response matters more than the touch itself. The biggest mistake men make here is escalation. They grab, they hold on too long. They respond with more intensity than the moment called for. That turns safety into pressure. The confident response is surprisingly simple. Acknowledge the moment internally. Stay relaxed in your body. Let her be the one to repeat it. You don't need to comment on it. You don't need to return it immediately. Your calmness tells her, "You're safe expressing this around me." And here's the quiet power move. If she touches briefly and pulls away, you stay present but grounded. No chase, no withdrawal, because when she feels she can test closeness without consequence, she'll test again. Here's the mindset shift. Touch is information, not an invitation. Read it, respect it, let it unfold. Now ask yourself this. If she's showing interest quietly, if she's regulating her emotions carefully, why do the people around her sometimes seem to know before she ever says anything? That's not coincidence. That's section 5, and it might be the clearest sign of all. 5. What her friend's behavior reveals about her true feelings. If you ever want clarity without confrontation, watch the people around her. Because here's the truth. A woman can hide her feelings from you, but it's much harder to hide them from her friends. Let me paint a familiar picture. You walk into a room where she's with her friends. The energy shifts slightly. Someone looks at her. Someone else looks at you. There's a pause, a smile, maybe a subtle nudge or a raised eyebrow, or her friend suddenly finds a reason to include you in the conversation, asks you questions, makes space for you to sit closer, or casually leaves the two of you alone for a second. That's not random kindness. Friends often act as emotional buffers. When a woman feels something but isn't ready to admit it or act on it, her friends test the environment for her. Here's the behavioral insight you need to lock in. When her friends facilitate access to you, they're signaling that your presence is welcome and emotionally relevant. If she truly wasn't interested, her friends would stay neutral, or distant, or protective. Supportive behavior means they already know something you haven't been told. Now, here's where men sometimes overplay their hand. They start performing, trying to impress the group, or asking directly, "So, what's going on?" That creates pressure, and pressure makes her retreat. The calm, confident response is simple. Be polite, grounded, and socially aware. Don't seek confirmation from her friends. Let their openness guide your pacing, not your urgency. When you remain relaxed, you show emotional maturity, and emotional maturity is what makes her feel safe enough to step forward on her own terms. Here's the mindset shift that keeps you in control. You don't need to extract the truth. You need to observe it. Behavior always speaks first. And when you trust what you're seeing rather than forcing clarity, you stop chasing certainty and start leading with calm confidence. Which brings us to the final piece. If all these signs are present, and you still feel like nothing is moving forward, the real question becomes, what actually causes attraction to grow or disappear at this stage? That's what we're closing with. Let me leave you with something that might challenge you a little. Most men don't lose women because they're too confident. They lose them because they rush clarity instead of allowing connection. Here's the controversial truth. When a woman pulls back while still staying connected, it's often not rejection. It's emotional regulation. She's not avoiding you. She's protecting herself from falling too fast. And your role in that moment isn't to chase, convince, or retreat. It's to stay steady. Every behavior we talked about, the glances, the conversation bounce, the proximity, the light touch, the friends, none of them ask you to perform. They ask you to lead calmly. You lead by not panicking when things aren't obvious. You lead by being grounded when attraction feels subtle. You lead by letting her choose you more than once. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Confidence isn't about forcing momentum. It's about being comfortable with pace. And if this resonated with you, I'd really love to hear your experience. Have you ever misread a situation like this? or noticed these signs only after it was too late? Drop it in the comments. I read them, and I respond when I can. Because the men who grow in dating aren't the ones chasing answers, they're the ones paying attention. I'll leave you with this. Attraction doesn't grow when you demand certainty. It grows when you create safety and stay present.